Hey, I wanted to jump back in here and go back into AutoCAD or Autodesk Fusion 360 and show you some of the stuff I've been working on and just give you some ideas of what you can do with this software. So this is a sign-in screen. Um, so I've used Fusion 360 quite a bit for several different projects. Um, this little menu over here on the left gives you a way to organize your different projects. One of the things I've done is a plasma table. I work at a makerspace, and this plasma table basically was designed from scratch using Fusion 360, designed around some basic, um, CNC type wheels and belts and stepper motors. And so this is basically what we started with. Um, got NEMA 17 stepper motors on here. Uh, used a 2-inch angle. What we don't see on here is a belt. There's a belt that's attached to each end of this angle, and then it loops through these rollers around that pulley, um, and then it's guided on these rollers on top. There's a motor on each side. So we were able to lay out these plates and then fabricate these plates and put them into use. Now the thing about Fusion 360 is nice is I can actually, yeah, it's a little laggy at the moment. But I can actually move this around. Well, well, my computer's not cooperating very much, but anyway, this gives you an idea. We were able to lay out all these different parts, machined parts and sheet metal parts, and then assemble this plasma table and put it to work. Um, Another thing, y'all may have heard of the open source grinder, the Sabre OSG. Um, I don't remember exactly who put this together. I first found it on DC Knives, um, but all the parts were out there in DXF, and I brought them into DXF and extruded them. Found a couple of problems and got back with the designer on fixing those. But again, you can take all these parts and basically assemble the unit, see how it's going to work, see if there are any problems with the way things line up, and actually um, kind of run this thing through its motions. There's a radial joint here, so you can see how this arm is going to flex. This whole thing is a tilt type grinder, and then I believe this arm is a linear slide. Of course, the belt doesn't really, you know, you, what do you want for free? But the belt doesn't change as you change those things, but um, it's very functional to be able to do that and then be able to go back and pull up all the individual pieces. So um, this drawing is basically a layout on a sheet of all of the main body parts of that. There is another sheet. Don't see it right off. It's probably just the base. I think these are all 3/8 inch steel, and I think the base is a 1/4 inch plate. And then the platen. That's it. The base, and then the platen, and the platen holder, which I think I've got in here. Yep. So it's really easy to make all these different parts. You know, make sure they fit. You know where you're going to put them. Gives you the ability to plan. Let's just look through here and see what other interesting things. Surface grinder, something I really want to build. Um, I think I like the style of the Oregon blade maker rather than this one that actually kind of hangs down on a kind of a vertical oriented wheel. But same thing here. You have the ability to lay these parts out. This doesn't have the mechanism to adjust its depth on here yet, but you can see it's got the linear motion rails for the basic movement that's needed. Now, this magnetic mount here is probably a little short, but I figure that probably needs to be about 18 inches long or so. Anyway, that's a surface grinder attachment. Let's see. Lots of new projects. Here's my daughter wants a table for a new apartment, and so I laid it out. I've got the wood out in the garage to actually build it. Um, so it's going to be basically a 5-panel plywood table with a walnut outer edge. This will have a little angle piece in here that will help bolt that leg into the frame. And I hope to be making that in the next week or so. And one other thing that I've done, let's see which one of these is the right one. Fusion 360 doesn't have great capabilities in terms of text. It has somewhat limited. So there's not an easy way to like put this text on a circle like this. You've got to take each one and rotate it, and then kind of put it into position. So actually, I went into Adobe Illustrator and created the numbers for this, then brought that into Fusion 360 and created the framework, and then cut this out of 1/8 inch mild steel as a clock face. So anyway, those are just a few ideas of what you can do with Fusion 360, the extent that it can go. Let's see. Yeah, let's look at this. So this was cut on actually on that plasma cutter that we looked at earlier. This is the actual toolpaths of the cutout. So this is done. All these interior pieces are cut out first. Then we come back and cut out these larger areas, and then we come back and cut out those big pockets in the middle. The reason you have to do that is you have to be mindful of how long the plasma cutter is running. It has a duty cycle that that the higher amperage you're running at, the lower that duty cycle is, and it running at 60 amps. You can only run it about 2 minutes out of a 5-minute segment of time. So you have to kind of cut some of this, let the big transistors in there rest for a few minutes, cool down, and then you can cut some more. But in terms of generating these toolpaths, once you do that, you can go in here and you can simulate what that's going to look like, and come in here and turn the stock on, which I've told it it's going to, just be a sheet. Then we can run through these and see what it's going to cut out. Of course, all these small parts that it's cutting the complete perimeter of, those parts will fall out of the table. In some cases, you have to be careful. Sometimes they fall halfway out and they're sticking up, so you have to kind of make some provisions for that in case that happens. It's kind of built into the way the plasma table works. But that's just some of the examples of what you can do with Fusion 360. Let me go back and look at one other thing that has some millwork in it. So we created some coin dies to use in the forge. We heated up some mild steel blanks, placed them between these dies, and then struck it with a hammer. This one I don't see. Well, you got to be a little careful about where you put stuff. Sometimes it gets misplaced. It looks like this. I'm not sure where the punch and die of this set ended up that has the toolpath in it. But anyway, you can take something like this and basically generate G code for a mill to mill these pathways out as well. So anyway, just a little bit of information about what you can do with Fusion 360. Be sure to share my YouTube page. Get on there and like the page, like the videos, and subscribe and share it with your friends. And let's see if we can get help get my subscribers up. Anyway, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.